Hi everybody, welcome to Westward Books YouTube page. I'm Addie Weston and I'm the author for Westward Books, and today I'm going to be reading you the foreword from Terrific Tales, Stories from a Pet Guardian. This is going to tell the story of how Terrific Tales and Westward Books came into being. Spoiler alert, it was all my grandma's fault. Right, I hope you enjoy. Here we go. This is the foreword to Terrific Tales, Stories from a Pet Guardian. I'm the author, Addie Weston. My grandma was the kind of person who always told you that you were wonderful at everything you tried. It wasn't just that she told you, it was that she honestly believed you were wonderful at whatever it was you were attempting. Playing a new instrument? Wonderful. Cooking? Wonderful. Your fashion sense? Wonderful. Writing a story? Wonderful. Existing? Wonderful. You're a beautiful girl and I love you, she'd always say at the end of every conversation. It didn't matter whether you thought you were wonderful or smart or beautiful, because Grandma did, and she loved you. So, of course, when she kept insisting I write a book, I took it with a grain of salt and a laugh. Whenever I'd relay stories to her of our pet's exploits, she'd say, "Oh my goodness, I swear you could write a book." "I'll get right on that, Grandma," I'd say. Now, Grandpa, he was the storyteller in the family. You could ask him about anything. Farming, the Navy, our family's lineage, maps. Oh boy, did Grandpa love to get out the maps and show you every which way he had crossed the United States. I like to think that just a smidgen of his storytelling abilities, of his talent as a modern-day bard, got passed down to me. I was often told by Grandma that I could make a rather mundane story interesting, like ones about my cats. Again, I took it with a grain of salt and never followed through on that suggestion to write a book. Until, one day, just before Christmas 2015, I was telling Grandma a story about our cat Hiccup. I do believe it was the multiple times he has disappeared on us and caused a household panic, but whatever it was, it had her laughing in stitches. "Oh my goodness," she said, "I swear you could write a book." "I'll get right on that, Grandma," I said. "No," she suddenly replied, her voice tight and serious. Grandma was reprimanding me. I can't remember that ever happening in my life. Grandma always gently redirected us as kids, never reprimanded. But here she was, doing just that. I was 37 years old, but I suppose you are never too old to be reprimanded by your grandmother. "I'm serious," she said. "I want you to write this book." "About what?" I asked. "About my pets?" "Yes," she said, "about the wild antics you and they get up to. I want you to write that book." "I guess I could," I said. I didn't want to outright say no. You don't say no to Grandma. She's Grandma. "No, you will," she replied. "You will write it for me." She was still using her serious voice. "Okay, Grandma," I said at last. No grain of salt now, no laugh. "I will write you that book." "Good girl," she said. As usual, she let me go from the phone with a, "You're a beautiful girl and I love you." What had I gotten myself into, I wondered. It was a week before Christmas, but only 2 days before we were set to have holiday dinner with Grandma. Some of my siblings and I would be headed to our dad's for Christmas dinner, along with the Nibblings, and of course, Grandma. 48 hours. That's what I had to turn something out. And I did. In 48 hours, I wrote 1,600 words, sent it to my friend to edit, made her suggested changes, and printed it out. I folded it carefully. I drew a cheesy Christmas tree on the front of an envelope and signed my name. And then I very carefully stuck the first chapter of my book, of this book, into the envelope and sealed it shut. I had now officially started something. So off we went to my dad's house, where dinner was had and jokes were told, and then it was time to open presents. My sister had bought my dad a gag gift that year, a game where you throw a ball into a plastic bear, and the bear then proceeds to poop the ball out of his rear end. This was perhaps the biggest hit of the night. Though the joke she played on my nephew was pretty funny, watching him wade through a huge, gigantic box of tissue paper only to find a very small present at the bottom of it, a framed picture of himself and us on our way to the live show we had taken him to as his Christmas gift. It was hard to tell how funny he found that. Gift-giving time ended with our then 3-year-old niece sorting through every costume in the costume trunk we had bought her and proceeding to enjoy the $3 wand better than any of the clothes she found in there, as kids often do. To be honest, she probably would have been happy to just get a huge gigantic box of tissue paper. But that wasn't entirely the end of the night, because I still had an envelope to give Grandma. "Merry Christmas, Grandma," I said, and handed her the envelope. "Now, no," she said, and pushed it right back. "I can't afford to give gifts anymore, so you know you can't give me any either." "It's homemade. It didn't cost me anything." "Now, no," she said again. Grandma was always stubborn like that. "Grandma, take your present," I demanded. "Now, that's not fair if I can't afford to give you anything." "Grandma," I said, and this time I was using my serious voice. "I worked my butt off to get this finished in time for tonight, and my friend put time into it as well, even though she's getting ready for Christmas too, and you are going to open it." I shoved the envelope back at her. "Well, okay, thank you, honey. I love you." "I love you too, Grandma," I said. She opened it and looked at the chapter title, perplexed. "It's the first chapter of your book," I told her. "Oh my goodness," she breathed out, voice nearly silent. I let her sit quietly and read it. She would tell me later that she read it 3 times in a row, just sitting there at my dad's table. I tried not to look at her while she read it. It's a strange thing to watch people while they are reading your words. But I couldn't help but notice one small thing, that Grandma was crying. I quite honestly didn't get a single present that year that was better than the absolutely warm all over feeling I got from making my grandmother cry tears of happiness. "I make everyone who stops by the house read it," she told me a few days later. She sadly didn't live long enough to see the completion of this book. She passed away when I was on chapter 10. But from that Christmas dinner onwards, every time I talked to her, she would ask, "Are you still working on my book? How is my book coming along? You better be working on my book." Now that she has passed, I use the sound of her voice in my head. "Are you still working on my book?" to cheerlead myself onwards. I will finish, and by the time you are reading this, I have finished writing Grandma's book. Because Grandma told me to, and you always do what Grandma says. And that, dear readers, is how this collection of stories ended up in front of you. It was all because of Grandma. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. As always, you can find Westward Books on Facebook. That's the best place to follow us. You can also find us on YouTube and X. And if you're looking for the books, they're under my name, Addie Weston, on Amazon. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.